We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the SlooPcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing all right, Jared. Just ignore the chat here, but we're doing all right. How are you?
Always ignore the chat. That should be oh damn, Austin's not here. I was gonna tell him ignore the chat to the SlooPcast Bible.
To be fair, Gangland, I don't clap.
If you've noticed, he actually snaps.
Yes.
I don't know why.
All right.
Just to be different.
So today is our SlooPicks episode. This is our Friday episode where we pick 6 games to pick the over under on some interesting games. We'll talk about games, other games, and have some fun with this here. So we do our picks through CBS Sports. We lock them in on Wednesday. Is it? I think Wednesday.
CBS locks them in on Tuesdays.
Tuesdays. Okay. So some of them might be off by a few points or whatever, but we are going by whatever CBS Sports Pick'em has. So with that being said, Jared, we'll jump right into it. We got a pair of noon games we're going to talk about here. We're going to start over at the Big 12 with TCU and Kansas. TCU and Kansas, an undefeated Jayhawks, Jared. Can they stay undefeated this weekend? They are going up against TCU, who's a 6.5 point favorite.
Yeah. 6.5 point favorite. I find that interesting. Kansas obviously has been on a bit of a hot streak. Kentucky. No, Kansas. I said it right the first time. Getting lost. All right. Yeah. Kansas is not just a basketball school, at least not this year, it would seem. Now we can take a look at their schedule and see that, like, there's good teams on here. ISU's not a bad team. West Virginia's not a bad team. Houston for a group of 5 team is not a bad team. There aren't any great teams though. This will probably be the first real test for them. Yes. But at the same time, if you go over, you look at TCU's schedule, they did just slaughter Oklahoma. And say what you want to say about Oklahoma this year. Okay. Like I hear you. They're not good. But they decimated Oklahoma.
But to be fair, Jared, actually, no, I take that back because I'm looking at this wrong. They played Iowa State last year because I saw.
I hate that ESPN does that. But yeah, they beat Colorado with a decent. They got an FCS win. They didn't look great against against SMU. TCU didn't look great against SMU. I am not sold that either of these teams are quote unquote for real.
No, I mean, yes, they're both undefeated, but yeah, I really like TCU for at least from their offense production here. I really like TCU in this game here to head on over to Kansas and win this game. And I'll take TCU to cover here. I think that win last week really pushed them over for me to really start paying more attention to TCU as a maybe they could be that team that can make some splash towards the end of the season here. So I will take TCU in the points.
Yeah, I totally get where Kyle's coming from. TCU does put up some serious points and some serious yards. Again, though, the competition level is obviously to be questioned. I feel like both of these teams, even though we're like officially in October now, I feel like both of these teams still feel kind of mysterious to me. It's and like I would love to be like, oh, and this is the week where we find out which one of these teams is. I just don't know if either of these teams are real. If I'm being super honest, Kyle, when in doubt, pick the underdog. Give me Kansas.
All right, our first.
But hold on, real quick. The over under currently at 68.5.
Over.
They're gonna smash the shit out of that.
Smash. All right, and our guest picker for this week is Buckeye Esquire. He helped us with some picks in our Thursday episode in our Know Your Enemy for Michigan State, and he has a few things with each of these picks here. So for the TCU Kansas game, he says Kansas has been a feel-good story of the year, and quietly Max Duggan and Jalen Daniels has been having some of the best seasons for quarterbacks nationwide. After a completely embarrassing Oklahoma, I think TCU wins, but wait. He says, knock, knock, knock. Who is it? Is that Sun Card at the back door? Let him in. Jayhawks sneaky cover late.
Kyle, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of zoned out halfway, just for like a second in there, and then I came back, and I didn't know what I came back into.
All right,
see you, Matt.
See you, Buckeye Matt.
And welcome, Kabuto.
He agrees with you, Jared, with Jayhawks covering. All right, the second noon game here is Tennessee and LSU. Noon game, and Tennessee is a 2.5 point favorite. Now I'm really questioning here. Yes, I know it's at LSU. LSU's not that good, Jared. I'm kind of stumped on why Tennessee's only a 2.5 point favorite. And then I realized, oh yeah, I know Tennessee's put up some big numbers this year, but they also have played teams like Ball State and Akron and put up some big numbers during those games. But I think this might be a really close game here.
Gangland says
I don't really like either team, to be honest. I really don't. But this is pretty much a pick'em game here, and I'll just take Tennessee to win this game. So I'll take Tennessee to cover.
Gangland says, but they also almost lost to Florida. Here's the thing, Gangland, they also almost lost to Pitt.
They did. And they went into overtime.
And I will die on this hill that had Slovis stayed healthy, that they do lose to Pitt. If Pitt had, 100%. Pitt would have won that game had Slovis not got hurt. 100%.
Yep.
I'm just saying, like, yeah, they slaughtered Ball State and they slaughtered Akron, but Florida's not very good, and they only beat Florida by 5. They should have lost to Pitt. Make no mistake about that. They should have lost to Pitt. But at the same, Tennessee is definitely not a top 10 team, but I've said it 1,000 times, and I know we're on Huddle now, so I'll feel free to repeat myself like that, whatever, stop myself from repeating myself. But when it comes to like top 10 teams, there aren't 10 top 10 teams. So this is just like the latest number 8 that's going to lose at some point. Like, it's just like, there's not 10 top 10 teams. But at the same time, so like, I don't like Tennessee that much, but at the same time, we take a look at LSU, barely wins over a terrible, terrible Auburn team. And then outside of
to me,
then they have a win over New Mexico, a win over the Southern Jaguars, and then like a 15-point win against Mississippi State, and Mississippi State is kind of having an okay season, so like that's their best win, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, kind of like with TCU and Kansas, I don't I don't particularly feel like going to bat for either of these teams. So I'm gonna go with the points again. I'm gonna take LSU.
All right. All right. And Buckeye Esquire has here, operator, won't you put me on through Tennessee's whipping ass down in Baton Rouge? They'll be singing Rocky Top and Death Valley. Tennessee wins and covers. I'll take Brian Kelly with the butt rub.
Zach says the SEC is just down this year. I'm telling you right now, everyone's down this year. There's not a good like middle class of football this year. College football is starting, and I think it's because of the transfer portal. College football is starting to experience a lot of parity.
Balancing.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see some parity in college football, but that hasn't. SlooPicks LV logo is fire. Oh, thank you. It was actually Kyle's idea. That's probably the most Kyle logo we have. Parity or parity? I'm from Ohio. I don't know if those are two separate words from a pronunciation standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I think that overall college football is starting to balance itself. I mean,
but not at the top though.
It's still top heavy right now. I mean, you got your 4 or 5 teams that's top heavy. Yeah, I know overall, Jared, overall, but yeah, a lot of these other teams are really starting to balance themselves out here. But speaking of balancing themselves out, UCLA undefeated. Heading hosting Utah in our 3:30 slot here. Utah is a 3.5-point favorite here. Big surprise seeing the Bruins undefeated 5 games in here. I mean, you can look at their schedule like, oh, they played Bowling Green and Alabama State and Southern Alabama and Colorado. Yeah, definitely should win those games, but they had a pretty good showing against a really decent Washington team that we've really seen. Everybody in our chat's favorite quarterback here has been overall doing pretty well. But yeah, they had a great win last weekend against Washington. And yeah, things are really starting to look up for UCLA here. But I just don't know if I can really. I really want to take Utah here because I think Utah is the better team here. But I feel like something's just off with them. Yeah, they should have beaten Florida, and they've taken care of business against teams they definitely should have taken care of here. I just feel like there's just something off about Utah here. So it's that one of our rules, Jared. When in doubt, to pick the quarterback, and I'll pick UCLA in this one.
Yeah, I think that's probably. I don't know. My problem is very similar to yours, where I do think Utah is the better team. But you're right. They have felt somewhat off. They should have beat Florida. They didn't. And Florida, and at the time that sort of felt like two good teams, but in retrospect, is Cam Rising healthy? That's another big question heading into the game. I think he's supposed to play, but you know how it is with college football and injuries, right? Like you just don't know. No one tells the truth about those things. So yeah, if you're looking at I'm kind of just going Utah in this game. And I don't even necessarily have a great feeling as to why that is. I'd feel much, much better, I think, if it were like 2.5 as opposed to 4.5. That would probably change my mind, but it's not. So I'm gonna go with Utah here.
All right. All right, and Esquire has for this game.
Could it be that the pack is better than we thought this year? I don't think so.
Esquire says, I had a law school buddy who went to Utah. He was insane and kept talking up the MUSS, the Mighty Utah Student Section. Utah was my preseason pick to win the Pac-12, and I still feel solid about that. Weird one trip to the swamp, notwithstanding, but I don't know how well the must travels and future Big Ten brethren UCLA has been scraping hard all year. Utah wins, but UCLA covers.
I think that's probably a fair assessment, to be honest with you. I really don't like 4.5.
All right, and our like other and our other afternoon game is the Ohio State Michigan State game, which you can listen to our thoughts about that in our Thursday episode. So we're going to move on to a trio of night games. So first off, we are going to stick with the Big Ten here, and oh boy, Jared, oh boy, Iowa and Illinois.
Listen, every time I do the SlooPicks, not every time, but a lot of times I do the SlooPicks, there's like 6 games that I'm absolutely going to include in the SlooPicks. And then there's the 7th one. Yeah. This is that one.
This is that one.
I want to
see whatever. I want to see what the over under is. Well, Illinois is a 3.5 point favorite here, but what do you guess, Jared? Hold on. No one look.
I already know.
I know you're gonna look, gangland, but don't look here. What is the over under in this? What is the over under in this game? What do you think it is?
Yeah, right, guess. We don't want you to know. That's the point.
Yes,
we want you to guess.
You to know. Guess.
20. No. No, 36.5.
Yeah, 36.5. This isn't the monsoon that NC State and Notre Dame played a few years ago, where it was I think a total of 17. No, it was a total of 13 points scored in that game. But now 36.5 points. Yeah, I may take the under in that one. You got one of the worst offenses in the country, but yet one of the best defenses in the country in Iowa as well too. And Illinois just really surprising this year. They're 4-1 this year, Jared. They are 4-1.
And they lost to awful Indiana somehow.
Yeah.
Like honestly, Kyle, rewind yourself to like early August, right? Mm-hmm. If I said to you, okay, Illinois' first 4 games, Wyoming, Indiana, Virginia, Tennessee, Chattanooga. And then I told you that they were going to win 3 of those games. First, you would have called me a liar.
No, I would have thought they would have won 3 of those games.
Who would you have picked out as the loss?
Virginia.
Yeah. Indiana's terrible. I don't know. It's hard for me to jump fully on the Illini bandwagon. I don't like juxtaposing Illini and bandwagons. But I don't like it's hard for me to fully jump on board here because they lost to Indiana. And I know that they just beat Wisconsin, congrats. I think Ohio State gets credit for that one because every time someone plays Ohio State, they lose twice. As far as Iowa being a great defense, I don't know. I mean, I get that they're pretty good.
All Illinois needs to do is score 15, 17 points
to
win this game.
100%. But I do think Illinois wins this game. I have very little concern about that. It's at 3.5. Feels like 2.5. I might feel I would take it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even think about it. I would just take Illinois and shut the hell up. 3.5 in a game in which we don't expect many points to be scored at all of a sudden feels like a lot. Like if there's only 30 points, scored in the game, winning by 4 all of a sudden feels very difficult, right?
Yeah. So the over under 36.5 here. Yeah, that's a 20 to 17 game, and 17 points seems like a lot for Iowa.
Right. Like, because like in the Big 12, if we rewind for a second and go back to like TCU, Kansas, that's a 6.5 game, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that 6.5 is less significant than the 3.5 with Iowa and Illinois. I mean, because like based on the percentage of the points scored, I bet it will be. But I'm going to go ahead and pick Illinois here, only because I've lost utter faith in Iowa. But man, that Indiana game, that 3-point loss to Indiana is telling me I'm being stupid for doing this, but I'm going to take Illinois.
Yeah, I'll take the Fighting Birds here. I jokingly just mentioned here, Iowa's offense is crap, averaging 240 yards a game, total offense. That's not passing, that's not rushing. That's 240 yards total for the game. That's what Illinois averages in their passing yards per game. I'll take Illinois to cover here. And Esquire with his pick here. This game should be sponsored by Sherwin-Williams, as it is likely to be as exciting as watching paint dry. Iowa has an offense that makes the 1880s look progressive. Illinois has that sneaky Burt energy that's hard to quantify. 3.5 seems like a tight spread until you consider that's at least 2 scores for Iowa. The Big Ten West is a lawless, unpredictable wasteland of mediocrity. And because of that, I think that Illinois is likely to follow their bludgeoning of Wisconsin with a complete dud game against Nepotism U. Hawkeyes to cover.
Yeah, Burt is, I believe Burt is an Iowa guy. Did he not play? Or he has like close ties to Iowa. He's held now 2 different head coaching gigs in the Big Ten. I think I'm right, Gangland. I think I'm right. I just don't know. I feel like Kirk Ferentz is on the Joe Pa plan at Iowa though. He's gonna have to die.
He played in Iowa, and he was a graduate assistant and the linebacker coach at Iowa.
I believe he has a Hawkeye tattoo, which was always a bit awkward when they had to eventually play Iowa. Either at Wisconsin or now at Illinois. All right, Kyle, what's next?
All right. And you're right, he does have an Iowa tattoo. All right. BYU and Notre Dame is our second 7:30 slot. Notre Dame is a 3.5 point favorite here over the ranked BYU team.
I going first? You going first?
I'll let you go first, Jared.
I'm going first. All right. So once again, let's take a look at these teams' schedules. Notre Dame had a rough start. lost to Ohio State. And then, but as we've covered, every team that's lost to Ohio State so far this year has then turned around and lost again, right? So then but it was Marshall. But it was Marshall.
Marshall.
Then they beat Cal. Cal's not good, and it wasn't an impressive win. Then they beat the Tar Heels, and like Tar Heels feel like a weird team. I don't know how else to say it. They collectively, they win a game against Appy State where they collectively scored 124 points. They barely beat Georgia State. Then they turned around and destroyed Virginia Tech. The Tar Heels feel like a team without much consistency right now. Mac Brown needs to stay retired. I mean, no, he's absolutely raised the profile at North Carolina.
Yes.
He's going to leave North Carolina much better than he found it. And I think that that's all you can ever ask of a coach.
All right. Notre
He's
Dame
done a great job.
Notre Dame.
BYU, an okay showing against Utah State, who's not very good. An okay showing against Wyoming, who's not very good. Got run off the field by Oregon. They went to 2 overtimes with Baylor, and Baylor's a pretty good team. They're not anything great. I feel like I see a team on an upswing with Notre Dame, and I kind of want to ride that upswing with Notre Dame, I think. So I do think that they win this football game. I'm looking at the 3.5. Much like the previous game we talked about, I'd feel much more comfortable if it were 2.5. I think I'm going to have to go with, when in doubt, pick the underdog on this one. I do think Notre Dame wins this, but the 3.5 scares me.
Yeah, it definitely does here. And honestly, this game's going to really depend on how Drew Pine does for Notre Dame here. He's done pretty well. I'm looking at his average here, and 69.8% completion, 6 touchdowns and interception for the year, and he's only played really 2 full games. He only played a handful of snaps against Marshall, but in the other 2 recent games, yeah, he's been doing pretty well. 70% completion, 34% completion, no interceptions since being the starter. He's got to really maintain that if Notre Dame is going to win this game. But I just have a feeling that in this game here, up against a better defense, I feel like BYU will come out top here. So I'm gonna pick the Cougars to win this game. So by default there, so that means that I'll have BYU to cover.
All right. One last game, Kyle. Who we got? Esquire. My bad.
Esquire here says, I often think about that summer, the summer of 2022, when people thought,
how many references we up to, Esquire?
When people thought both BYU and Notre Dame would be good. Now we know better. Both teams have a need to feel the thunder, to chase the lightning from the sky. But I genuinely have zero idea which team is going to successfully ride the heat of passion to a victory. With reasons to doubt both teams, I'm going to go with the team getting the points. Also, the reverse jinx of Ohio State's strength of schedule resume. He picks BYU.
That one was very heavy-handed, Esquire. Congrats to everyone who caught the references.
All right. Now we can cover the last game here, Jared, which is our ACC game here. It is our 8:00 with Florida State and NC State. NC State coming off that loss to Clemson and is a 3.5-point favorite over the Seminoles. All right, I will go first as Jared is yawning here.
Long day, sorry.
I really like Devin Leary as a quarterback. I think he's probably one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, but he's getting no support right now. If you watch that Clemson game last weekend,
primarily from his offensive coordinator.
So many dropped balls from his receivers there, and had like literally no time from his offensive line to scan the field, to throw the ball, and because of the the offensive coordinator too. I feel like this is Devin Leary's in a long going to be it's going to be a long season for him. But yeah, I still really like NC State's defense. NC State's defense is really good, only allowing 15 points a game, and letting up less than 100 rushing yards, which is something that Florida State wants to do in this game, is to be able to run up and down the field here. And I feel that NC State's defensive line is going to really suffocate Florida State. And I'll pick NC State to cover this game because I think they're the better team here at home, night game. I feel like the NC State should be able to cover this. So I'll pick the Wolfpack.
Yeah, both of these teams coming off of their first losses last week. Florida State losing to Wake, NC State losing to Clemson. And say what you want to say about Clemson, they're not in like tier 1 like they were a couple years ago, but they're still a very talented football team. You see a loss for NC State of like 10 points, but like it didn't really even feel like NC State was ever going to win that game. So I feel like the 10 points doesn't even tell that full story. Florida State's biggest quality win right now is a 1-point win over LSU. NC State, on the other hand, and while I do like Leary and I do like their defense, it's a little hard to find a quality win on their schedule.
That's true. Yeah.
It's so that definitely hurts. Florida State, aside from LSU, has at least like taken Boston College to the woodshed. And I know that like, Boston College is still a Power 5 football team, right? So while I do like NC State, given the strength of schedule and given the quality of opponents that these teams have played, it's very hard for me to take NC State over Florida State with CBS, with Vegas giving me 3.5 points to take Florida State. So I'm going to take Florida State here. I think this is kind of a toss up. I might even lean a little bit towards Florida State to win this game, but just like 51-49, right? So yeah, if you're gonna give me 3.5 points to take Florida State, I'm gonna take those points and run with them.
All right. And Esquire, with his final pick here, says, the inclusion of Kyle's not so secret mistress, the NC State Wolfpack. I'm still disappointed they haven't gotten a live Wolfpack mascot, which would ensure the win and cover. But after taking a hard-fought L to Clemson last week, Wolfpack howls at the moon and wins by at least a touchdown.
Kyle, that's all 6 of our games, all 7 of our games, if you include Thursday. But now, Kyle, it's time for our bonus segment. It's our bonus segment. We did this for the first time last week. Kyle, who did you pick last week? Did you get points? I didn't get points. Michigan won.
Oh yes, I did. I did get points. Let me go back. It was sorry, I gotta go to the scores for
so yeah, You look that up. I'll explain the game to everybody. Kanai last week started a game called Choose Your Chaos. Basically, the rules are we have to pick a non-top 25 team to beat a top 25 team. And you get points based off of the inverse of the team's ranking. So, for example, Kyle got...
I got 8 points because I thought that the Aggies were going to lose to the Bulldogs.
And why did you get 8 points? Just so everyone understands the game.
Aggies were ranked 17th, so 25 minus 17 gets you the points.
Yeah, essentially, if you predict number 1 is going to lose, you get 25 points. If you predict number 25 is going to lose, you get 1 point.
Yeah, so if you predict like Purdue,
I think they get it.
To beat Minnesota last weekend, you got 4 points.
Yeah. All right, Kyle. So choose your chaos. So we do have Tennessee and LSU playing each other. That's a rank on rank. So that's off the board. TCU, Kansas playing each other. It's a rank on rank. That one's off the board. Utah, UCLA off the board. Esquire, I see you're still in the chat. If you're still listening, feel free to pick your chaos as well.
So the games to choose from here, Jared, is the Bulldogs here. The opposite side here, Bulldogs play Arkansas, Mississippi State versus Arkansas, Cincinnati ranked versus South Florida, Georgia versus Auburn, Oklahoma State versus Texas Tech. We're going to skip the Ohio State one because that's not happening. Ole Miss and Vanderbilt, Washington, Arizona State, Clemson, Boston College, USC, Washington State, Kentucky and South Carolina, Wake Forest and Army, mentioned the BYU Notre Dame game, Kansas State, Iowa State, Alabama and Texas A&M, mentioned NC State, Florida State, and Oregon versus Arizona. That's a lot of games.
Yeah. I don't know why you decided to go on that endeavor and name all of them.
Mm-hmm. Buckeye Squire says he'll take Notre Dame to beat BYU.
I think that's a good one. I think that there are a couple that I think are good quality ones. It helped you pick your chaos, so thanks, Kyle. There you go. Kyle, it was worth it. I'm going to go with Florida State beating NC State. Because Esquire, I agree with you that I think that one's very good. I do get 2 extra points for Florida State and NC State, since NC State is 14 and BYU is 16. That's all, honestly, the only, because I do like your pick a lot. I think that was my tiebreaker. Kyle, are you at all tempted
to get the
Texas?
Hoosiers? No,
Texas A&M.
No, not picking Texas A&M.
I'm just saying that's 25 points.
Man.
Exactly. Spikes. That's the attitude.
YOLO. I'm not a big fan. I'm like looking at all the games. I mean, I know, Notre Dame is probably a good pick.
And by the way, Kyle, don't feel like you can't pick something just because Esquire or I did. Like, don't feel free to. It doesn't have to be a unique pick.
I'll go out of left field here. Even though I think they'll win the they'll win the Big 12. I think they'll win the Big 12 this year. And they've had a lot of close games, but I think their offense is pretty powerful. And I think this is going to be a really, really high scoring game, which may come down to the end here. And I'm going to do the Red Raiders over the Cowboys.
That's a big money play right there. Oklahoma State currently ranked 7th.
Yeah.
It's a big money play. Zach says South Florida could upset UC. They could. Problem is UC's ranked 24th. You only get 2 points for that. So while I agree with you that
I
could
get
happen, it's just not. It's just not worth the gamble.
Yeah, forget it's the subtracting whatever they're ranked minus 25 plus 1 because you get 1. So I get 9 for that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And for what it's worth, I do, and like Cincinnati, I think is not nearly as good as they were last year. That's not a that's not a huge reach, but South Florida's very bad.
Because like another game I was kind of looking at, I'm like, maybe the maybe Army surprises because you shouldn't play any of the Army.
never play the military academy. That's one of our rules.
Yep. What was the other game I saw that I was kind of briefly entertaining? Like, oh, what about Vanderbilt over Ole Miss? No.
My eyes stopped on that. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, Jared.
I've been told, Kyle, I've been told that every single SEC game is tough.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told. So with that being said, how do you feel about Auburn and Georgia?
I feel more confident.
What's the spread on that?
More confident of South Carolina defeating Kentucky than that game.
I would, yeah, same. 30 points. Georgia's favored by 30 in that game.
Yeah.
But honestly, considering Auburn sucks, but Georgia does too. Georgia doesn't suck.
No, they don't suck. No.
But they're not
as great as they made it out to be.
Well, they're not as good as they were last year.
Because they play in the SEC, and every game's tough.
Yeah, but Georgia's seriously on like a 2-game slide right now. As far as like...
It feels that way, yeah.
Because they barely beat Kent State. I don't care if the final score was 17 points. They barely beat Kent State. And then Missouri, who is, in my opinion, still in the Big 12. I don't buy this SEC nonsense. Yeah, that was.
I feel like this is
a real
game
lame game as well.
I feel like this is a game that Georgia's going to come out and just assert their dominance in this game and just tell everybody, hey, we're back. We fixed our issues. I feel like this is that kind of game for Georgia.
Maybe, but it's Auburn. Like this is one of the worst Auburn teams we've seen in a long time. This is a terrible, terrible Auburn team. Buckeye Squire said, I almost picked Auburn, Georgia, but then I remembered how much Auburn sucked. Yeah, it's not just very, very important word choice there by Esquire. It's not just that Auburn sucks. It is the degree in which Auburn sucks. It is how much Auburn sucks. Yep. They're 3-2, Jared. I don't care. Interestingly enough, they also barely beat Missouri. They got ramshackled by Penn State. They have a win over Mercer and San Jose State. By the way, barely beating San Jose State.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I'm not buying in on LSU, because LSU only beat them by 4. Mm-hmm. I feel like LSU barely beating Auburn is one of the ugliest things on LSU's schedule. That's how little I think of Auburn right now. Auburn sucks. I guess is what I'm trying to say is that Auburn sucks. They suck with like 6 U's.
Yeah, in our last bonus game here, Jared, will you be
Georgia looks like 2015 Ohio State. I think that's apt. And you could say the same thing about like 2014 Florida State and a bunch of other teams who just kind of mailed it in the year after they won a national title.
Jared, do you think you'll be up for this weekend's Pac-12 After Dark game?
No. Probably not.
You don't want to watch Oregon State and Stanford duke it out?
Oh, that's what you're talking about? I thought you were talking no, I guess Oregon, Arizona kicks off at 9. That's not too bad at all. I'll probably watch some of that if the Florida State NC State game doesn't go yard.
Yeah. All right, that is it, Jared. That is our SlooPicks episode here. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think this will be a very entertaining weekend, and gut feeling, I don't think we're going to see too much team chaos this weekend, which probably means it will be team chaos type of weekend.
I feel like we're never lucky enough to get two, unless it's 2007. We don't typically get two like crazy chaos weekends in a row typically.
But
before you go, who wins Red River? God, how bad is it that we like didn't even acknowledge that game is happening? Who's Bama play? They play Texas A&M. The fans. No, I don't think the fans win, Zach. Red River.
I'd pick the Sooners in this one. I know they got just crushed last weekend, but I have no faith in Texas.
I don't like either of these teams. Do I gotta pick one?
Yeah,
I'll go Texas.
Did you see the games for next weekend, Jared?
Yeah. Oh God, it's a wonderful week to have Ohio State on a bye week because next week is an amazing lineup of football games.
And you know,
A&M upsets Bama. No, they aren't. I'd love to see it, but no, they aren't. Texas A&M's a trash heap.
Yeah, and it sucks, Jared, because and tell your friends to never do this, guys and gals.
Never have a wedding.
Never have weddings.
Yeah.
I have a wedding next weekend. I'm not going to be able to watch some of these great games. So
everyone make sure to constantly ping Kyle in the Discord server to keep him up to date next weekend.
God, I'm going to get the stare at me. So
I mean, you have your phone. See, Spikes is straight up telling you to stream to your phone.
I need to get make sure my backup batteries are charged.
There you go. It's not your wedding. God damn, I love that attitude.
That's funny. All right. All right. I think that's it. Jared, go ahead and kick us off.
Yep. Tonight we're doing, once again, we did them yesterday. We'll do them again today. We're doing Sink the Ship to end today's show. If you're new here, Kyle, I kind of fast forwarded straight right into the end of the show. Are you cool with that? I'm tired. You ever think of Kyle's Corner?
Okay. Kyle's Corner, I don't really have anything in Kyle's Corner, to be honest.
That's fine. We're fast forwarding to the end. So yeah, tonight's ending music will be Sink the Ship. If you're new to the show, the YouTube version of the show doesn't get music because that's how YouTube forces us to be. The podcast version of the show does get the music, but if you want to hear the music, there is a link down in the show notes and you can go listen to the song. So, with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Sink the Ship.